super excited to be talking with Gabriela Pereira. Gabriela is the founder and instigator of DIY MFA. She earned her MFA in writing from the New School and is a seasoned speaker at college campuses and national conferences. She's also the host of DIY MFA Radio, a popular podcast where she interviews best-selling authors and book industry professionals. And she's also the author of the book DIY MFA, Write with Focus, Read with Purpose, Build Your Community. Gabriela, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So can you just tell me a little bit about DIY MFA? Like, how did you start? What prompted you to build it? And more importantly, what is it?
So DIY MFA is the do-it-yourself alternative to a master's in writing. And essentially what we do is we help writers get the knowledge without the college.
Ooh, nice. And so what motivated you to start it?
So I got my own MFA. In 2010, I was sitting in graduation at this little church in the West Village in a very rickety pew, and I'm expecting the skies to part and the light to stream down through the stained glass, and I'm expecting the literary gods to whisper from on high, "You are a writer." And of course, that totally didn't happen. And instead, I'm sitting there kind of grappling with this idea of, well, couldn't I have done this myself? Like, I had a writing group, I had I know how to read. I know how to write things. Like I was already doing the things I'd learned, although I'd had a wonderful experience at school. And so I went home that night and did what any normal human would do. I blogged about it. And so I put this blog out into the ether back in 2010, the heyday of blogging. And I figured it was going to go off and no one was going to respond to it because I had 12 followers and one of them was my mother. So I figured I was never going to hear about this again. Instead, I woke up the next morning to dozens upon dozens of comments and a whole flood of emails in my inbox. And I realized I'd hit a nerve. So from there, I started testing out different ideas, figuring out what DIY MFA could become. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And so you've been doing it properly since about 2010. You've been building it as a business.
So we started officially building it as a formal business back in 2013.
Okay,
I
cool.
was testing things out, how a lot of online businesses start, where you're kind of puttering around for a while. And then we officially said, all
understanding
right,
who you're going to serve and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
So you've run 3 or 4 summits on HeySummit, depending on your definition of summit, I guess. I'd love what I find really interesting is that you've used it in a couple of different ways, and also a couple of different ways that are a bit different than our other folks. So I think your first one was the Writer Igniter Con 2020. So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about what was that? What was it supposed to be? And how did you configure it?
So Writer Igniter Con, essentially, I needed an excuse to build some really cool content that I had ideas around. And I wanted to beta test it with a pilot audience. And I didn't want to have to build a full-on course within our course delivery platform because, we have this whole system is very sophisticated, but it involves a lot of setup and sort of on the back end to get things rolling. And also a lot of setup in terms of the shopping cart and things like that. So I was like, I just want to do a small, scrappy beta test for a month and see how it's going to roll. We love small and scrappy at DIY MFA. So I had this HeySummit, I got it from AppSumo way back in the day and had been sitting I downloaded the code. It'd been sitting in my little archive of things I want to use someday, cool tech. And I was like, why don't I just try using this? Let's see how it goes. And then we used it. And actually it was my operations person who was like, dude, we need to use this for our summits. No more of that locking and unlocking videos or audios at midnight nonsense. This is so much easier. So after that, we were sold and we just went forward with our summits on there. And we've used it for our reading challenge, which is kind of like a summit, but sort of different. It's not interview driven. It's purely content from me driven.
Like a one-to-many driven, but on a specific schedule that isn't over 3 days. It's
exactly.
almost like a talk series.
Yeah. So the reading challenge and the Writer Igniter Con were similar in this way. Each of the things, each of the little mini lessons or short, compact, either a video or an audio. The reading challenge is audio. The Writer Igniter Con was video, where I would teach a specific technique. In the reading challenge, the idea is you take a book, whatever book you choose, and it's directing you on how to read that book with a writer's mindset and with a writer's eye. And the beauty of it is that it's completely like evergreen in the sense that you can do the same challenge over and over with different books. So we actually run it every year. It's like become a tradition. We do it every January. It's like the reading challenge, kick off the new year with whatever book you love that you want to read like a writer.
Awesome. So what I love is the fact that you're using it. We love customers like you because people maybe start off thinking that you can run a 3-day summit on HeySummit, but we're also then finding a lot of people will then run that summit and then leave it open for people to find afterwards. But then others are like you, finding different ways of using it as like a stand-in for maybe a talk series or a recurring course is too strong a word, but like a lesson or set of lessons. And it's just really, really fascinating to see how innovative you are, with all that. Are there specific like features or things about HeySummit that you think are particularly helpful, especially when thinking about like allowing you to reach your audience and engage your audience, and maybe hopefully getting out of the way and empowering you to do that?
Yeah. So first off, I want to just say your customer service rocks. Like when I've reached out, and there've been some times, and I'm one of those people, like you say that this is the kind of customer you love. We're also kind of the customer that causes the most trouble because we're always trying to do stuff that the tech isn't necessarily meant to do. But that's sort of how I roll. I want to take the tech and see like, how far can we push this? What can we do to kind of make it, how do we maneuver it in this other direction, which can be a customer service nightmare at times. I recognize
it's fun.
that.
It's a challenge.
It's fun, right? Good. But your folks, like, I mean, I've gotten emails that like, in the middle of weekends from customer service replies. So like, they're amazing. So kudos. Yeah. The thing I love with HeySummit is that it looks similar to our platform, even though, I mean, our platform is a very different thing. It's a WordPress site. There's all these layers to it and plugins, but a couple of the things that we're able to embed in the WordPress, or not the WordPress, the HeySummit piece allow for a similar look so that people are kind of used, like they know what the behaviors are that are expected of them. So for example, the fact that you can embed Vimeo videos, which is the same as what we use on our main site, people already know like, oh, you click play. Oh, here's where the captions are. Here's where this is. Here's where that is. We didn't use captions for our summits because it was weird for the interviews, but for Writer Igniter Con, we did. And that was incredibly helpful. It made it more accessible to a broader audience. The other thing I love is being able to embed the discuss commenting instead of just the HeySummit commenting, which allows us then to have, like, people already know what they need to do with discuss. They just get in there, they log in, they do what they need to do. And it just it allows us to move people to this other platform, but in a way that they don't necessarily feel like they're being moved to another platform, which for us is really important because we tend to be we have our site, but then we also do a lot of like, it's driven through an email, which then sends them to a Facebook group to talk about this, that, and the other. And HeySummit just allows us to have all those discussions in one place.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabriela, for just taking a few minutes out of your day to talk about your fantastic events. And folks, you can find out more about Gabriela and her work at DIYMFA.com, where you can also sign up to get a free starter kit if you're interested in starting your own writing journey. Thanks again, Gabriela, for making the time.
Thanks so much.